because I stopped playing the piano when I was in seventh grade. I was like, oh my God, piano is so lame. I don't want to play anymore. Blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, you're going to regret it. And I was like, no, I'm not. This is so lame. Ew.
Hello, my name is Janelle, and I'm joined by none other than young Baby Tate for this edition of NME's In Conversation. For those of you who don't know, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, young Baby Tate has been on this latest season of Love and Hip Hop's Atlanta, has had an amazing album that just came out After the Rain with the deluxe version, as well as a bunch of other activities, but we're going to get into all of that. First and foremost, I want to know, like, kind of how are you feeling at this very moment? You've had such a busy run. Are you kind of taking a bit of a pause from everything right now at the moment?
Honestly, I've been so tired. Um, but I have been taking breaks. Every time I come home, like back to Atlanta, I kind of chill out for a little bit. Um, when I'm not like working my ass off. So I've been just kind of relaxing. I've been doing my remixes to other people's songs, not too, pressured, and just chilling.
And I was about to say, because I've been seeing like on Twitter and Instagram, you got Get Into It with Doja Cat and then you did the Brent Fayez mix. I'm like, does your pen ever like rest? I'm like, you were always on go. It's just so dope. So I'm like, even within a break, you're always sort of keeping the creative juices flowing and stuff.
You got to, because otherwise you won't lose it, but it definitely will dry up a little bit. So you got to keep the juices stirring so that it doesn't get dry.
Right. No, I feel that. And like speaking of music, getting into your EP that you released a deluxe version of After the Rain, what kind of led you to want to create like a deluxe version of it, like adding songs to it rather than just creating a whole different other project?
Well, honestly, we had already created all the songs that were on After the Rain Deluxe at the same time that we made After the Rain. So it was kind of always the plan to do a deluxe, drop the first half and then drop the second half. Because I really loved those songs as well. It was just like at the time I'm independent and it's like this is going to be a lot of songs to clear. This was also my first time like not producing 100% of all of my songs. So, I'm having to clear records with producers and I'm also working with writers and it's just like this is going to be a bit expensive. So, let's just, break it up into parts and that way we can also kind of spread out what the project is and it's not just like something that people pay attention to for like 3 months and then they're like, okay, whatever, it brings them back.
Right. And I was about to say, because like when you first on the original like album before the deluxe, you started with the song Lesson Learned. And then you kind of started with the song Confused. And it was kind of like, I know that you based the entire EP around like overcoming out of like a heartbreak and breakup. And it was kind of like Learned set that tone. And then you
Mm-hmm.
started with the EP with Confused. Was that like intentional or was there any sort of like reasoning as to why you were just like, that just so happened to be how the songs sort of panned out?
In my mind, like the second half of After the Rain is the first half. You get it? Like
Yeah.
story wise,
Mhm.
it's kind of like these are the things that happened first. These are things that led up to the rain stopping. Like this, the confused, like the deluxe, confused, eeny meeny, like that is when the rain was coming down. And then once lesson learned hit, it's like, oh, the rain has stopped, the clouds are gone, and the sun is shining again. And it's now I'm like, bad bitch, boss bitch, bounce back. I am that bitch. It's like raining, not raining.
Right, right. And then also kind of got me into like the production of it too as well because it was a lot of like I noticed with your last EP Girls, it was kind of like an electro pop feel to me. And then into like After the Rain, it was more of like I heard like trap 808, like high energy and stuff like that. Is that was that intentional for you to do production wise, just going into more of like the heavier bass heavy? I mean, because it did switch with Vacation and stuff like that with the more chiller R&B vibe. So what's kind of your mindset going into like the production of it overall with the from beat to beat?
Honestly, this was such a random selection of beats. This whole project was just kind of based off of emotion and however I was feeling that day in the studio. This was like a cohesive story that I wanted to tell, but as far as how I told it, It was just kind of very ranging. So I would get beats from a lot of different people, a lot of different producers, and just go through and find ones that I resonated with that day. And if it happened to be like an 808 hard trap drill beat, or it was like something like more R&B, it was like, well, let's do this today.
Right. Oh, I hear that. No, that's really dope. Because then also too with the album, there was like a very reflective tone. And songs like Me First, where you said, I've learned some lessons, earned some blessings, you know. I'm kind of curious as to like what lesson, if you're feeling open to share that you learned and take away that kind of inspired the album and the EP overall.
I think the biggest lesson that I have learned is to put yourself first. A lot of times when approaching relationships, we say it's selfish to put yourself first. Like, oh, you're supposed to think about your partner. And that's true. But, like, if you're not doing good, then how's the partnership going to do good? It's like the, the spoiled apple rottens the whole bunch. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
um, I think that's the biggest lesson that I kind of learned because I think for so long, especially as a woman, we often coddle men and like just want to be like we're nurturers by nature. So a lot of times we forget to nurture ourselves. And so for me, I think that was my biggest lesson, just remembering me first.
Right, journey back to self. That's always, you know, inspiring, very much so. And like another features you had, I saw that you mentioned that originally it had no features, and then you added Flo Milli, and then also Six Black. I don't want to butcher the
Black.
name, Black, but it was cool because you had also mentioned that Black was one of the first people that gave you nods, like, and kind of shouted out your work and stuff on Twitter. So how was that having that full circle moment and having him featured on the album, you know, with you as well?
It was really dope. I wish that we could have gotten in the studio together, but we made this project like really in the heat of the pandemic. So studios were barely even open. We kind of had to sneak in. But yeah, it was really dope being able to create this moment with him, and I hope that we can make some more stuff together because I really appreciate Black. I appreciate his artistry. His pen is sickening, and I will always say this: Black is one of the realest niggas I know. Like he's just a really solid person, and I really appreciate that.
Right. And it's always good to have solid, you know, people to work with around you, you know, especially in music, you know, stuff could always change from day to day. So that's really, really dope. And like a lot of what you do also, like I've noticed that you also have like a lot of conceptual albums. And I think that's because of your like theater background, you know, kind of having sort of like a story play out and people to really get into this world when you create music. When you started making like albums overall, was that sort of the thing that you wanted to set out to do? Like every album, I want it to be a concept. Like you did the rainbow, you did boys, girls. Was that sort of always your like MO?
Yeah, from the very beginning, I made my very first album when I was like probably 13. And from the ages of 13 to 17, I made like maybe 7 or 8 albums, and most of them were conceptual albums. Whether it was like, I had this one when Words with Friends was really popular. I had this one project called Words with Tate, where I like all of the song names were words that had Tate in them. So it's like, um, dedicate, no, not dedicate, child. It was levitate, meditate, resuscitate, understate, stuff like that. So they've definitely always held a theme. I just kind of it makes music making more fun for me in that way because I'm able to approach it like almost like a project, like a school project. And I was always really good in school, and I got hundreds on all my projects. So that's how I feel about approaching my albums. It's like this is another project that I'm about to get 100 on.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean that gives you like an edge. I mean, honestly, you deliver every time, so you know. And I was going to say like also because in terms of like concept, I feel like you kind of mentioned earlier, like how a lot of artists sort of like have this hype around an album and then they kind of just like ditch it, you know. And I noticed that something that you did with After the Rain on YouTube, you had these like nice little like 45-second videos where you were kind of going into each song and like creating skits and stuff like that. So like how important do you feel as an artist it is to really create a world around your music?
It's super important, especially when you're independent, because it's like you really got to bring people into that world to make them care, to make them want to be engaged, to make them want to listen, to make them want to tell other people about it. So for me, I think I did a really good job with After the Rain. Did a really good job with Girls, like just creating like what this world is, and what people should think about it, feel about it, walk away knowing about me, about themselves, even. So, with After the Rain and all the little skit videos, the music videos, everything, it's just like eras. You know, I want people to really be able to look back at these things and be like, wow, Tate was really in her bag.
No, awesome. And then, of course, we kind of touched on it, like each album having concepts like boys, girls, the rainbow and love. And speaking of love, you were featured on, this latest season of Atlanta's Love and Hip Hop. So I'm curious as to how that like came about, how you even came across the opportunity and sort of that like vetting process of getting on the show.
Um, this one time back in, I want to say it was September or maybe October, probably October. I was checking my, requested DMs on Instagram, and I see this lady in there, and she's like, "Hey, I'm with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, and they want you on this season." And at first, I was like, lady, stop lying to me. And then I was like, okay, maybe she's not lying. But then I was like, do I want to do Love and Hip Hop? Like, what the heck? But then I ended up reaching back out to her, and she told me like, yeah, Viacom actually specifically requested you. Like, it's not even Mona, it's not VH1, it's like Viacom. They were like, we need Young Baby Tate on the show. So yeah, they reached out to me, spoke to me about my life and what I got going on and who's in it, and told me, things were going to be different, especially with COVID. They can't shoot the same way that they've been shooting for the past 10 seasons, or 9 seasons. And so, yeah, I was like, well, this is interesting. This will be something that I feel could definitely open me up to a larger audience, a different audience that probably, hasn't seen me yet, because I feel like a lot of my fans are very Twitter, Instagram, TikTok heavy, and I think Love and Hip Hop fans are more like Facebook. So
On
um,
Facebook.
they hadn't seen me yet. So I'm like, this will be a good opportunity to show people my personality, to show people my work, and yeah, just boost it up.
Right, boost it up. And it's crazy because, yeah, I mentioned a little bit, you're like loving hip hop. Like, what kind of changed you being a bit apprehensive about it at first?
Um, Honestly, them saying like, we're not doing stuff like we've been doing it before, like we're not trying to be in with the messiness and the drama. They really are trying to like revitalize their whole brand, which I applaud, and I was happy to be a part of, because I'm not about to be on TV throwing drinks at people and fighting them. So I was like, well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And, I thought about it. I prayed about it. I did some tarot readings about it. And it was like, this will be a good opportunity. So I did it.
No, that's up. And it also too, like, there's definitely like one thing, like you see the final product and it's like, okay, this is what's going on TV and stuff. But like, was there a bit of an adjustment like when recording the show, like getting used to all the cameras and stuff like that being around? Like, was it a bit invasive for you? Did it take you a minute to kind of like be like, oh, we're recording, or were you a bit like careful about what you had to say and think and do and stuff?
It's definitely been a learning process. The first scene that I shot was like in my house, which is like, um, yikes. I probably shouldn't have let these people in my house, because now people are gonna know where I live. um, so gotta move. But yeah, I think at first I was just like, oh shit, I'm about to be on TV. Like, it's a lot of times it just hit me, and I would just start laughing, because out of nervousness. Like, I'm about to be on TV. That's fucking crazy. Yikes. But yeah, definitely had to learn to watch the things that I say, because they can get taken out of context. The producers and I have a good relationship, so I feel like they wouldn't try to set me up to look crazy or anything. But you never know. I might say something wild, and they're like, "Ooh, that was funny," but I didn't mean it like that.
Right. And then speaking of also people getting to know you on the show as young Baby Tate and your artistry and everything you offer to the world, there was also this very public relationship that you had with Guap Dad 4000. And it's one thing to sort of like go through a falling out with someone like, low key, keeping it private, but then to have it kind of be displayed in front of potentially millions of people, how have you been handling that vulnerability that comes with, because you got to watch it all back, and go through those feelings over again. So like, how has that experience been for you overall? I can see by your face, you're like, whoo, it's been a journey pretty
Yeah.
much.
It's one thing, I think the biggest thing for me that's been difficult is seeing people's reaction to it and seeing people like invalidate the whole situation and be like, oh, this is a storyline. It's like, no, this is real fucking life. And this shit really happened to me. And it really happened on camera. And it's like, I had to deal with the disrespect and the audacity already, like in April. And then I had to do green screens about it last month and talk about it again. And then now I have to watch it and see people talking about it again. And it's just like, honestly, I've said this before and I will say it again. My biggest regret about this entire show was having Damien on the camera with me. I wish that I would not have, because who knows, we might be friends right now, but we're not.
Right. And especially because it's so public and like, it's just like, things get said. Because, one thing I also noticed is that, you engage a lot with your fans on Twitter about it and stuff. And so, like you said, that they kind of offer commentary. What's sort of been some of the comments that you were like, that they said that they completely taken out of context, that you kind of want to dispel, like, no, that's not how it happened. That's not how it kind of went down. Like, what are some things that shocked you that people said?
I mean, editing is we shoot a whole scene and they edit it down to like 3 minutes. So they can't put everything in, and there were a lot of things where I was like, no, let me clear that up. Like a lot of people were saying, oh, you knew how he was, or like you just really sat here and let him play in your face like that. And it's like, this was a whole 180. Like, I was so taken off guard, so fucking shook, because off camera, before we started filming, everything was fine and dandy. Them cameras came out and it was like, whoop, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? So, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you knew. And it's like, no, I really didn't. Even my manager, it's really sad. My manager, before we started filming, I was telling them like, oh yeah, I'm kind of talking to this boy. We've been talking for a while, da 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 da, kind of like him, but we're friends. We live in 2 different states. Don't know what it is, but we be whatever. And my manager Quinn was telling me like, I don't know about him. He was like, I don't trust him. I feel like he's gonna try to embarrass you on TV. And I was like, what? No, he would never do that. He has too much respect for me to do something like that. I can't believe that you would even think that of him. And look at me now, disrespected on national fucking television. So yeah, once again, it's just lessons learned. Next time, if I do go back on Love and Hip Hop and I have a love interest, I'm just gonna ask Mona to set some fake shit up so that if it is disrespect, at least I don't like have to actually care about it.
Right. Now people, you come across you, but like, you've been true to this, not new to this. And I've been in the game since you were, 13. So, I mean, now that sort of everything's unraveled and you have all this success and this momentum building for you, what's something that you would want to tell your 13-year-old self now?
I would tell my 13-year-old self to keep playing the piano and stop saying that it's lame. Shut up.
Really, by the piano, is it something that you feel like?
Because I stopped playing the piano when I was in 7th grade. I was like, oh my God, piano is so lame. I don't want to play anymore. Blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, you're going to regret it. And I was like, no, I'm not. This is so lame. Ew. And now I really regret it. I really regret not continuing. I would have been, just, I feel miles ahead of where I am musically. I'm still doing an amazing job with the skills and the knowledge that I do still have with piano. But if I would have kept playing, like, it would have been giving the girls Alicia Keys, Yoko Ono, and it's not giving either of the two. So
Not
yeah.
Yoko Ono. I'm weak. But then you also made mention of your mom, you know, who we all know is a Grammy award winning artist. And so I've kind of interesting to sort of like, I wanted to ask, like, you know, you navigating the industry in this day and age with access to the internet and social media, you know, versus, you know, the things that she experienced during her time. Have y'all ever talked about how things are similar or different? Are there any huge differences from her era versus, you know, yours?
I think the biggest difference is like privacy. I think back in the 90s, people had lives that like celebrities, I mean, that fans didn't know about. You know what I'm saying? And now, like, everyone kind of just knows every aspect of celebrities' lives, from, you know, like what they ate this morning to like who they got in a fight with when they were 12. It's just like, he's so invasive. And I think I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing, because I just feel back in like the 90s, people had much more of a respect, I think, for celebrities, for musicians, because I think of that fact that like there was this barrier where it's like, oh, I can't touch you. Like, I can't just, you know, run up on you. I can't just talk to you crazy. Like, this is fucking, you know, like, this is, you are you. But nowadays it's like that kind of respect is gone, because people just feel like, oh, I know you, that's the homegirl.
Right. And then it's like opens up the sort of like gate to like more like criticism, because then it's like you notice like how one day, especially with a lot of black female celebrities, like how one day you're kind of getting gassed up and then the next minute like people are kind of like the knife in your back, you know, ready to sort of take you down. So like, you know, in times of that, like how do you sort of keep yourself level-headed and you know confident even when people aren't on your side that particular Tuesday or whatever?
um I'm getting better at just blocking people, but a lot of times I will go back and forth, which is something I've been trying to work on, because it's completely unnecessary. But you know, some days people just gotta get chumped down, even if they are like just a fucking 14-year-old with a fake page. But you need to learn these things because your mom's obviously not teaching you. But nowadays I just try to block people, because honestly, um, that's what they want, is for you to respond and for it to really get under your skin. And sometimes even a block can be like, ooh, make them feel like they won because you saw it and it made you so upset that you wanted to block me. So it's kind of, you kind of can't just, you can't win, you just kind of got to ignore it.
Right, I feel that. But I'm like, how frustrating is that? You know, it's like no matter what you do, like, you know, it's like damn if you do, damn if you don't, you know? But then I wanted to circle back also too to talk a bit more about your freestyles that you had. And so I've gone on the social media and they've been demanding like these be on streaming sites and things like that. As far as, you know, picking up an artist's song, like what kind of like gives you the inspiration to want to just like hop on? You just hear their beat and it's just kind of like a flow kind of thing, or is it sort of just like a, you know, case by case, you know, you really just
Honestly, I just do it if I really like the song. You know, with Get Into It, um, I just love that song. It's my favorite song on the project, and on Doja's project. And I just was like, I just want to do a remix to it. You know, I also saw a lot of my fans like, OMG, like, you would have sounded so good on this song. So I was like, well, let me see what I would have sounded like. And, you know, just downloaded went to YouTube, found the instrumental, did a little YouTube to MP3, and yeah, put it in Logic and recorded it and wrote to it. And so with the rest of them, it's just like, you know, right now I'm in a position where I'm kind of like in between two deals. So I'm not gonna be like dropping any of my music right now. So it's like to keep people engaged, also to take advantage of the new fans and followers that I'm getting like every week because of Love and Hip Hop. It's like, why not? You know, this is fun. I always have fun writing. Um, I kill feature verses, which is why I think I'm so good at doing like these remixes. It's just really fun for me. Like it's kind of exercise. So yeah, it's just really, if I like the song, like with Wasting Time, Brent Faiyaz, like I could not keep that song out of my head after it dropped. It was just like on repeat, on repeat. And I was like, I have to put my spin on it. And so actually right now I'm literally like sitting in my studio right now. I just did one to Wild Side by Normani. So yeah, it's just like if I like the song, I'm gonna do one.
That's what's up. And like speaking of like, inspiration, I also noticed that you had tweeted about how when you got into music, a lot of the people that got into you were like 10 years old, right? And then now as you kind of grow older, that you've kind of grown up with you. And you've also referenced how you've been inspired by people like Nicki Minaj, Gwen Stefani, you know, the whole nine. So for you and your experience now, how does it feel to sort of be on the other side of that and be like, okay, now I'm the inspiration for these next generation of girls, you know, coming up, and they're going to be like, when they get interviewed, like, oh, young Baby Tate, you know, is my inspo and stuff. How does that kind of feel for you?
It's honestly very weird. It's very weird. And yeah, I had that realization, um, just that like I have fans who are now like newly fans to me now, and they're like 16 years old. And I'm just like thinking about the fact that I started dropping music like 6 years ago. And it's like, you were literally a child when I started dropping music. Like that is just so crazy to me. Um, because I don't know, it's just really it's wild. But it feels cool to know that, and I think there are already some people who would or should state me as inspiration. Um, because yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Because you're that girl, you know, you can talk and stuff. But then also too, because then like people also sometimes compare you to other people as well, you know. And I think there was one where they I thought I kind of found it funny, they compared you to Azealia Banks, which was kind of like a random. So like, do you kind of get frustrated when people kind of sort of give you random comparisons to other people, or do you kind of just not try to pay it any mind because it's like it is what it is at the end of the day?
I don't get frustrated, I get confused. I'm like, what songs were you listening to of him that you thought that? Like, who do you think I am? Are you sure that you're talking about me? Because I don't hear it. I don't see it. None of that. I've definitely gotten a lot of that though, specifically about Azalea Banks. People say like, oh yeah, young Baby Tate, and like they'll say some other names or like Azalea's daughters, and it's like, I don't see it. And that's no disrespect to her because like her music is really bomb, but my music doesn't sound anything like that. So I just never understand that. So yeah, it doesn't frustrate me. It's just like confusing.
But overall, I couldn't, you know, leave without bringing up, you know, I Am, which, you know, the song obviously was like the biggest song on TikTok, still is more than likely. And so the affirmations that you said were, you know, I am healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm rich, I am that bitch. So like, now that you've accomplished all of those things and then some, you know, what are three affirmations that you kind of tell yourself in this current moment at this level of your career? Like, how do you keep yourself positive and balanced? What do you tell yourself now?
Now, I mean, I still kind of just say those, but I think now I am loved. That's one. Um, I am powerful, AF, and I am capable of any fucking thing.
Period. That's awesome to hear. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Janelle.
No problem. Have a good day.
Bye, you too.